Welcome to Locally Sourced. I'm Armanda Familetti. Beautiful Putnam County is full of history, and tonight my guest is the keeper of that history. She's the Putnam County Historian. Welcome, Sarah Johnson.
Thank you, Armanda. I'm thrilled to be here on Locally Sourced.
And I'm so happy to have you. So, Sarah, what do you do? What does the Putnam Historian do?
Well, you know, one of the really interesting things about the county historian job is that no 2 days are alike. We get the most amazing queries and great visitors to our office with interests that range from Native American history to genealogy and the history of people's houses or businesses or farms. To things, paperwork that people have found of their families or somebody else's families. So it just really depends on the day. But ultimately our mission is to promote and to interpret Putnam and preserve Putnam County's history. So we have, as a county historian, we actually have a collection, an archival collection of material that has both old county records as well as the historian's collection, which has things like business ledgers from the 19th century and material from families' histories and photographs. We have a huge collection of photographs and postcards and that sort of thing. So.
And don't you also help out the local history societies and preservation?
We do. Part of the job ultimately winds up being we do a lot of advocacy work for the local historical society. So we help guide them in terms of collections management issues. Some of them are lucky to have permanent spaces for their collections, but others of them are still struggling to find those spaces. So it's helping them find a place to put their things and then to get their things in better order. And we joined a regional digital scanning initiative with the hope that, again, we can bring in all of the different smaller collections and make their material more available to people. So we're still working on that.
Okay, so you're really a resource to all the local history bugs that
we are.
I don't want to say infest Putnam County, but there are plenty of them.
No, and it really public history really does take a village. You know, there's a lot to do. So, and there's so much history here. There's great Native American history here. There's great Revolutionary War history. There's agricultural history and mining history. And right now we're working on, since nationally we're celebrating the centennials of both the U.S. entry into World War I and women's suffrage passage in New York State, which was November 6th, 1917. So that's coming right up. We've been developing content for those projects. And the suffrage project, I think, is really exciting because we found the names of a lot of material, a lot of women who were involved, both pro and con, which has been interesting too. And so now we're at the point where we're just trying to find out more about their stories, their families.
If you notice, we have a photograph of some early suffragettes, right?
Yes.
And so tell me, you're working on projects for suffragettes. It's the 100th year anniversary of women getting the vote in New York State, not nationally, but New York State.
Right.
I understand you have a couple of events coming up that you're going to speak to the public about.
We do, yeah. We've been working on suffrage all year, trying to find the local people who were involved in that, and that's been really exciting because we really didn't expect to find as many women as we have found, and so we're now trying to just add contextual information to find out where they lived and what they did if they worked, because some of them did, right. And just more about their lives and how they got involved. So tell us about the
events that are coming up and
Sure.
when they're going to be held. I know that we've got a graphic.
Absolutely. I'm doing a couple of talks in November again to celebrate all of that. The first of those is November 12th at the Putnam Valley for the Putnam Valley Historical Society, which is actually at the Putnam Valley Library. That'll be at 1 o'clock on Sunday, actually the 12th of November. And then the following Sunday, it will be at Kent's Town Hall, the Kent Historical Society. That'll be at 2 p.m. And Jen Cassidy from my office will actually be speaking at a Milltown Association event on November 5th. So,
and that's not about suffrage.
That's not about suffrage.
What is that about, the one on the 5th?
That is more about the history of Milltown, and I believe Louise Andre's collection of Milltown history material.
Okay. I thought it had something to do with VetScan, but...
Oh, I don't think so.
Okay. Sorry. Well,
It's a surprise.
Tell me something about VetScan while I
Sure.
mentioned it.
Absolutely. No, Jen Kesty in my office, this is her idea, and it really has come at a great time to capture again the stories of not just, we've obviously been working on World War I because of the centennial celebration, but this is a broader initiative to again, to get people, veterans, to look at their material, or the families of veterans, again, if the veterans have subsequently died, to gather that information together, bring it in. We'll scan it for them and provide those scans on a flash drive for them. So it just gives them an opportunity to really celebrate the contribution that their family member who was a veteran made.
When you say bring it in, where are you?
Oh, right. Yes, exactly. Our office is at 68 Marvin Avenue in the village of Brewster, which runs parallel to Main Street. We're about halfway down the ridgeline there, if the Croton River is the bottom of that ridgeline. And we're open. We have public office hours for research from 10 to 2 on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And we do ask that people call us because, for example, this morning we had 3 people there, and yesterday there was no one. So it just helps to be able to spread out our time, and when
you say you had 3 people there, you mean 3 people came in to do research at
yes.
the archives?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And Marvin Avenue is it's kind of behind the Main Street of Brewster, right?
It is, right. If you come down Railroad Avenue, we're the first left, exactly. If you
at
pass
that
the
light. Okay.
There's no light. There's just
okay.
yeah. And then we're about a half mile down on the left side. We're in a big old NYSEG building, actually, and an old NYSEG garage. So it's not very fancy, but it's a big red brick building parking out the front. So
no, but it's fun because I've been there.
Yes, you have. You came at a very busy day.
Yes, I did. I was impressed at all those history folks just looking up stuff, and it was just great.
I think that was one of the busiest days we've had. So there was, I don't know, 6 or 7 people there that day. Yeah. It was
so talk a little bit
crazy.
about the collection. I know we have some photographs of.
Sure. We have an absolutely amazing collection, as most of the historical societies here do too. Just absolutely amazing things in terms of Putnam County's history. That's a photograph of, and we'll sometimes, again, a lot of the material that we get comes from queries. We got a query about an artist, who's the man on the right, Carl Damon. He and his wife, Sophie, emigrated to the U.S. just before the Nazis were really bearing down in Germany. And they set themselves up in, first I think New York City, and then they moved up to Brewster. They knew everybody in Brewster. And so one of the children of their friends who were still in Germany contacted us to see if we had any more information about them or their time here. And we found from the newspapers, the old newspapers, that Carl had given some money to the Lutheran Church. So we asked them to throw it out to their church community and see if anybody knew where the children the foster children that they had taken in were, and we wound up finding them for them. So
wow,
it's just been this really amazing sort of public history meets the reuniting of these old family friends on 2 continents. So yeah, that was a really cool story.
And we also have a photograph of the actual stacks and the books and the wills.
Yes, exactly. A lot of people, well, we can talk about that one next too. So some of the projects that we're trying to, yes, that's a look in the archives room. So we try to shoot for best archival practice just in terms of the keeping of these materials. Most of the 19th century government records come in books that look like that, big, giant, heavy volumes. And we have, most of the material that we have goes back to when Putnam County spins off from Dutchess in 1812.
Wow.
So we have a little bit of material that's earlier than that, but not
colonial.
Yes, exactly, but not very much. Oh. Although most of the material that we have comes from is in the 19th and earlier 20th century, but we're still collecting things. And we don't have what's called in the museum or in archives and libraries world an acquisitions budget. So we're really reliant on people donating things to us.
Right. In other words, you don't purchase local objects of history.
Exactly.
You hope that folks who live in Putnam County or the environs or even far away in Europe are going to send you information.
If people have moved away, and again, the more outreach that we've done, the more collections we've gotten from people.
Well,
So it's really about awareness, I think, as much as anything else.
Yeah, well, that's why you're on the show today.
Yes,
we're going to get the word out.
That's why it was thrilling to come, because we really are dependent on people looking at, looking in their bureau drawers, and paper and photographs really like cold and dry. So please try not to keep those materials in basements and attics where the temperature fluctuation tends to be greater.
Well, let's go back and look at that graphic
Sure.
that we had. It was sort of ancient writing, and this actually goes back to previous. Is
Yeah, this is actually from the 1760s.
Yeah, there you go. I know.
And it's a document when
This is colonial.
Yes, exactly. Colonial New York, when the Wappingers Indians were trying to get their land back from the Phillipses, and Daniel Ninham actually traveled to London to try to do that. So one of our missions, because we recently also got a large collection of Phillipse patent material as it relates to the Moses Fowler House on Root Avenue in Southeast, is to try to gather more material together and to kind of package it, some of these materials, even if the collections, that particular object is in the British Library. But we're trying to, again, get ourselves into the 21st century and make links to the things that we don't have, and get the material that we do have scanned and make it available to people, again, as kind of curriculum development units for teachers, or just, topics of interest to anyone, to anybody.
So you said Phillipses? How did you pronounce it?
The Phillipse patent.
Phillipses. Okay, because I see that name all over Putnam County, and I thought it was the Phillipses. It's Phillipses. That's how you pronounce it.
I believe so. Again, they were the Dutch family,
right?
Who
owned all of Putnam County.
Who owned basically, from the Bronx all the way up to the top of Westchester. Yeah, they owned a giant swath of this. Of this land. So again, it's interesting and exciting because we just got 4 of these lease agreements, basically, is what they are. The earliest one from 1765, and 2 from the 1770s and 80s, and 1 from 1820, the 20s.
Where did you get them?
That's another interesting story. Dan Birmingham, who now owns the Moses Fowler House, called me one Sunday afternoon because 2 of the Moses Fowler descendants were at his house with these documents. And they had left him a note on his porch to try to bring them back to Putnam County. And what I didn't know at that time was that they were actually going to donate that material to us, which was just absolutely thrilling. Wow. Because because again, they had also stored all of this material in a safe deposit box for years and years. So it was in as good a condition as 18th century documents wind up being. Wow. And it's given us an opportunity to really look at that, re-look at that material, re-examine that part of Putnam County's history, and again, try to compile it together with, again, because the Phillipse lands extended so far, we're just itching to see if there are other of these documents out there, right. Because there's apt to be in the Beekman patent, and the other, the Roundout patent, which is over in the near the river, up in Dutchess County.
I don't know what that means. Roundout patent and Beekman patent. What does that mean?
They were basically just different parts of the land that they owned.
Okay.
So
that's what they called it, a
divided,
patent?
Yes, exactly, a PATENT. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's it. I'm learning so much.
Right, exactly.
And patent. And just to interrupt your train of thought.
Sure.
Mahopac or Mahopac?
You know what? That's up to that's in the eye of the beholder.
That's too sensitive an issue, is what you're saying, right?
It is. That's danger water.
That's very dangerous. I'm sorry I asked that controversial question. So you mentioned the Fowler House. There seem to be so many historical societies, preservation societies, museums in Putnam County. Can you just name some of them?
There are, and there are a lot of places that, again, some of the old houses are now privately owned and are not available for public viewing, or you can drive by the outside of them. There are actually a lot of those, and if you go on the National Trust or the National Register for Historic Properties, you can actually there's a big list of again, properties that have gone through the hoops to get on those national and
So
state
they're not
registers.
necessarily a house that I could visit as a history buff.
Right, exactly, exactly. Although some of them wind up opening up to the public variously, depending on who owns them. If they're, if they're run by foundations that have that as their mission, sometimes you can get into those. But there's the Southeast Museum, obviously, in the village of Brewster, and the preservation of Southeast. Oh, I'm screwing up the order of those words, but
Southeast Preservation Society or something of that nature.
Yes, exactly. And Kent Historical Society, Patterson Historical Society, and again, the nice thing about this regional digital initiative that we have is that those societies have chosen to participate with us so that they can scan their material and add it to this.
I'm going to ask you about that a little later, but right now I want to ask you about you.
Sure.
How did you become the Putnam County Historian? What's your background?
That's an excellent question. I actually come from an academic teaching background. I was teaching design history and the history of mass production, most recently at Carnegie Mellon University when I met my now husband, Terry Hines, who moved up here about 20 years ago. And so I've only lived in Putnam County for 5 years. But I started actually coming when I was at NYU in graduate school, and I would take the train up to Cold Spring. So I fell in love with Putnam County a long time ago and its history. There's obviously to go back to the other museums, there's the Putnam History Museum over in Cold Spring, and Boscobel and Manitoga, the two period houses, Russell Wright's house, Manitoga in Garrison, and Boscobel, the Dyckman house.
And the Foundry?
The Foundry Museum, that's the Putnam History Museum now.
Oh,
they've gone through a number of name changes, so that's some of that confusion, I think. But
and there's an old chapel over on the west side. And
there is, yes. There's so many properties. I'm sure I'm going to leave some of them out. And again, the Patterson Historical Society, for example, has a room in the town buildings there, so that on Tuesdays, Ron Taylor has a great group of volunteers that comes and helps him out. So almost all of their collection has been scanned, which is pretty amazing.
Okay, well, it sounds like you want to talk about the Hudson Valley Regional Digital Project. So tell me what that is. You've been teasing us talking about it,
I keep sort of coming back to that. Well, part of my mission really is to make so much of this amazing primary source material that we have here more available to people. And that's how we have chosen to actually get that job done. So we've joined at the consortia level so that other smaller institutions can join us. We've just actually gotten the Reed Memorial Library, and Jeannie Buck is going to join us on that project. And I believe we're going to pressure Putnam Valley Historical Societies into joining us too. So because most of their material...
You have to pressure? Some of it you have to strong on them? Is that what you're saying?
Well, yes, I think so. But most, again, because they have a permanent home, most of their material has been scanned as well. So, so they're sort of ready to go. And basically, we just help them with that. And there's some what looks like invisible work on the back end side where a lot of information about the images that we upload has to be entered. It's called metadata, technically speaking, and that's basically what allows people to find information on the web. So when it goes spidering out there.
And tell me so I, as just an interested party in local history, can go on the web, and what do I Google, or where do I go?
Absolutely, anyone can go on the web. If you Google Hudson River Valley Heritage, or hrvh.org is that URL. And then Putnam County, you want to go to the Putnam County collections. But the other cool thing about it is that you can say, if you're interested in, we put up a little collection about the Borden Condensed Milk Factory that was in Brewster. And you can find other Borden, receipts from other farms in the region, in the Hudson Valley region. So that's the other cool thing about that.
When I was doing research and you provided me with some information for this show, you had an interesting story about Borden condensed milk and Korea.
Yes.
Could you just tell that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So the amazing thing was we put up a little film clip. Dr. Robert Cleaver was a a medical doctor in the village of Brewster for many years, a beloved community
You put it up
figure.
on your website or your Facebook page?
We did.
Or?
We put this short film that he had taken of the fire at the former Borden's factory in 1935, in November of 1935.
So there's actual footage of
There's
the fire?
actual footage of after the fire, and it's got everything. It's got old cars, and it's got firemen and kids and community members. It's really great. But literally, that was on HRVH for about a month when this Korean TV crew called Jen Palmentieri, our digital librarian at HRVH, and asked if we had additional information, and came from Korea and filmed the exhibit at the Southeast Museum and the material from our collection that we have at the Putnam County Historian's office. And we took them to what's left of the back of that factory. Just before the Borden Bridge, the Village of Brewster's Highway Department has a parking lot, and if you drive in that parking lot, you can see the back of what's left of the factory building.
There still are ruins, so to speak?
There are still ruins, exactly. So we took them there. We asked them if they'd like to go see that, and they were like, "Oh yes, please."
So the Koreans came and they filmed. And have you seen the final product, or is it still in post-production? Or
I haven't seen the final product, although I think Amy Campanero, they sent Amy she was the talking head for us. And
who's Amy Campanero?
She's the executive director of the Southeast Museum. Okay. Because we filmed there.
Yes.
We wound up filming.
I'll put a plug in for the Southeast Museum.
Absolutely.
It's great.
Shout out to Southeast Museum. Absolutely, they do great work there.
Also, not far from you
just up the street from our house. Yeah, we really work collaboratively with all of the small cultural organizations in the county. So that's great.
All of them.
Other things. Not all at the same time.
You're the go-to.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Now, I seem to remember...
And it's a great community of people.
Yeah, you didn't say... I mean, you have a lot in the archives in what is a garage. And you have them somewhere else, too, didn't you? In the Putnam County courthouse or Putnam County?
Oh, there's two places to get records. Yes, exactly. So if you're, say, doing what's called a chain of title search, if you're looking for the history of your house, for example, you can start, if you live in a very old house, you can actually start with the records. We have the old deeds at our office. But we have the early ones from 1811-ish. And ours go up to about 1920, but then you have to go to the county clerk's office in the town of Carmel, where the county executive's office is, kind of tucked behind 40 Glenida Avenue, exactly, sort of behind the old historic courthouse.
After what year again?
After about 1920. But again, that's why it's great to shoot us an email or call us if you're going to do that kind of research, so we can send you to the right place.
And that's pretty much what people should do. If they want to, well, let's talk about the people who come and visit, right?
Sure.
It's so great that you allow the public to come to your offices and have access to these great old archives of information, including newspapers. There's the Putnam County Courier.
Yes.
And I assume because people have gotten ancestry crazy lately and genealogy crazy, you've probably seen a pickup in people coming to research their long lost relatives.
The various television shows have really popularized
finding your roots.
Right, absolutely. Have really made people much more aware of of how that's done. Although I think they make it look very, very easy on TV, and there's teams of professionals working behind the scenes there. So don't be chagrined if your experience isn't that, or if you don't find them in 5 minutes as they're just presenting the results of what are sometimes much longer searches.
Now, will you or someone in your office actually sit down, say I'm researching my roots, and will someone sit down with me and point me in the right direction and help me maybe make photocopies? Or?
Absolutely. So in terms of genealogy help, we have a subscription to Ancestry in our office, as do all of the public libraries in Putnam County. So that's an important place to start. Although all of the information, just because information is on the web, doesn't necessarily mean it's particularly reliable. So we try to, again, pay particularly genealogical work and research forward. So we keep vertical files of various families. And again, when people come in and are working on given and specific families, we ask them if they'll then, send us any additional research that they find for that family that's then added to the vertical files. So, again, it just keeps that information moving forward. And a lot of
so
people.
let me interrupt you.
Sure.
They come and you help them get a basis where to start. They go on their journey,
Right.
and then when they find new information, they send it back to you.
They send it back.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. It cuts down on on additional people doing the same work.
Right.
And we were just this morning. Dottie Buick was in my office. Doing some research for the DAR. And again, people have various reasons for doing family research. Sometimes it's to join an organization like that where, you're under a fair amount of pressure to find a link to a very specific ancestor. And so, like I say, if we can't help people, and there's lots of ways of doing that. You can look at census records. We've got the census records, federal and New York State census records, as well as some other quirky little family collections of material that have been donated to us over the years. So you never know what we may have. But again, it's always helpful if people give us a shout out before they come, because we can check our databases.
That's fantastic. You do a little pre-research. So
we do.
That's
Yeah,
great.
it just saves time. And again, then if we get really busy, if there's 2 or 3 other people, we can have piles of things for
Right.
people pulled beforehand.
So once more, the archives is on Marvin Street. It's open
Marvin
between
Avenue, 68 Marvin Avenue, yeah. And we have public hours. I'm there Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, but we have public research hours, 10 to 2. Monday through Wednesdays.
And call first.
Call first if you can. And if you can't make it in that window, we certainly do everything we can to accommodate people. We just don't want to overpromise and then underdeliver. We'd rather do the opposite of that and make sure that we get people in. And again, the more information people can give us about where they've looked, particularly about family history, that saves time for us too.
Well, we're just about out of time.
Oh, wow.
So I just want to remind people that you've got those 3 events coming up in November.
Yes, absolutely. And there will be more events. Check our Facebook page.
Okay.
We push out most of the events that are
Facebook,
going on locally.
Putnam Historian. That's
Putnam
all it is.
Historian on Facebook, that's right. Or the website.
And
So-
we've got those dates up right
Yes,
now.
yes,
So-
absolutely. Or you can give us a call or email us at historian@putnamcountyny.gov.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And so it's the 12th and the 19th that are women's suffrage, if you're interested in
Yes.
women's suffrage.
And there will be more of that. Yes, absolutely.
Terrific. And I just
So-
want to put in another plug for Southeast Museum that also has
Yeah.
an exhibit on women's suffrage. And I want to thank you very much for coming. There's so much to talk about, history in Putnam County. You're the person to go to. And it's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. This was great. I'd be happy to come back.
Oh, terrific. And I just want to thank the wonderful crew we have here every
Yes,
week.
absolutely.
And our coordinators. And thank you for watching Locally Sourced. Till next